Welcome to Warblog. Today I'm going to look at a game that I did, well, just a couple of days ago. I finished it a couple of days ago, but anyone who's been watching for a while will realise that I had a massive backlog. Fortunately, the remaining ones, these, still seem to be on the same page. So there's 3, and then there's 4, 5, 6. So it's come a long way. There's none on that page, so I'm nearly there. And the good news is that most of these, this is a bit of an odd one. There's a map, the map's done on that. There's a map on that. Do maybe some more tracks. There's a map done on that. Bit of a map on that. And something there. So the thing is, some of them are just blank. So there's a head start on most of them, and I just did this one. This is the one I just did. I might have to do this screenshot again. I didn't realise I had the mouse over on the view. So I'm getting there. But you've got to realise that these were put in February. Look, and it's July. That is 6 months ago. That is the impact that it has. 6 months. So it's kind of scary, and there's things that I need to be doing now. There's certain just little things, and I haven't done them, and so I'm just going to play this. I'm not even going to bother with too much thinking. And obviously I'm going to do my obligatory, and it's just things, I don't know, it's the yellow counters versus the black counters, I guess. But obviously we've got a complex picture for the boundary. I sort of messed up on the setup. I think some of these should be further down here. I think this is the line, and then I'll just start moving it further forward. But what you'll see is it's a pocket kind of thing. And so we've got several layers of primary engagement. Firstly, what they take. So they take this section here, and they take this section here. These are what they sort of do, and then I think the dialogue states that they next sort of, whether they do it or not, it's sort of like this would be the next thing that they would do, is come down like this. Presumably capturing all of this, and I think there are some lines. So this is why these objectives are here, central objective, and the this is the Sheikh Aquil mountain area here. So they're sort of attacking this place, and I've put this in here as the village and the central objective. So that's pretty much what you've got to do. And leaving that open, if we sort of get the orange one, I'm not sure exactly. That looks like a double, doesn't it? It's probably ISIS units over there. I'll have to have a look at that. Maybe I can restart it. But I think there's going to be some. Well, there's obviously we're going to have to sort of say, well, we've got to do this. This is a priority. So we've got to take that and that. So beyond that, everything else, this section, and all of this is secondary. It's not important. So we could figure this out as 2 games. I'm just thinking aloud because that's how I like to do it. So we can say this is 1 game. We're going to take that area, and this is the second area. We've got to take that area. And everything else we can consider later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 2 turns focusing on these, with essentially putting a holding line there, a holding line there, and a holding line there. That's going to be my game plan. But what have we got under there? Yeah, so I'll have to move I'll have to move 10Z Syrian to 11AA. So I've done that. But I messed it up, didn't I? I didn't move the Syrians, I moved it. God, I'm stupid. Right, let me do it again. Okay, so I imagine this should be now in order. I did it quite quickly, I haven't double checked, so yeah, so I've put it in order now. So we can play. Bearing in mind the initial strategy, I'm going to have a look at what we've actually got. Well, I'm going to have to get the pen tool out again. So obviously we've got the front line that we've been talking about, so let's just define that again. So we're dealing from there around to there, like that. So that means that really in that sort of pocket area, units of primary interest are going to be these two, this one, and these 4. And so units available to deal with those, we've got some artillery, which can obviously help. We've got this stack here, so we've got that lot, which can possibly go against that. We've got a hell of a lot here against one unit there, so let's face it, we're not going to be short of manpower, but we've got, and even here, I mean, we could send a little bit of this maybe this way, but this should be a walk in the park. Now the only thing I will say is that I was aware slightly to some extent that the regulars get a massive bonus in urban terrain, and there's a lot of urban terrain. So we'll see what that effect that has. So we've got 2 artillery pieces there, so let's just fire it on. Well, I don't like firing it on anti-tank, but I think I might as well, because they're actually quite difficult, and we'll probably be able to oust these. They're irregulars, they're tough irregulars, but they're just in the open, dug in the open. They're not in there. If they move back, there'll be a problem. So best to destroy them now. But so let's put the artillery onto this. 1.1, it's not too bad. That's good. So that's 3. Okay, well let's send 2 air units against it. 0.2. 0.6, 3.8. Okay. So we really want to send irregulars against them, so we can possibly send these YPG units. Yes. Okay. Bear in mind, I haven't gone around and considered the full implications of everything. I'm just sort of starting at this end, really. Now, I want to get something in there. So if I move everything in there, plus these two there, I'll have to retreat there in that case. So I have to run. Right. Okay, we've got some artillery somewhere, so let's use it. So what are we on? 8.1, 3.25. We've got some infantry we can use, but we want to save it for that. Let's bring in 2 tank units. This could be difficult, but I think we're going to go for it, because they're 8.1, so any modifier will be reduced. So 4-1, DE, we eliminated that unit. This is going to be plenty, isn't it? Must be. Alright. It's a 1. It might not be plenty. I do like to make sure it's plenty. I'm not thinking too clearly. There isn't too much over 7-1 odds. I just want to play the game really. It's been a while since I did a video. And the thing is, I just enjoy these videos. I enjoy watching them, and I always get a bit of a lift. You know, it's not just sort of, oh, I'll do a video and that's that. I sort of, it gives me a lift in a sort of, I don't know, some sort of sense. You know, I feel like I've accomplished something that's quite simple, but I watch it, and I always watch my video, maybe once or twice, maybe even 3 times. You know, I'll watch it sort of as soon as it's uploaded, and then, you know, maybe as I'm going to bed or something, I'll watch it again, and you know, I might even watch it another time. Sometimes I'll watch it a few times, not all the way through. Sometimes I'll just sit there and play it all the way through, to some extent in the back of my mind, to get the watch time up a bit. Not that I do that aggressively, but you know, I think a lot of people probably do that. I mean, when you only get like 10 or 20 hits, views, it's not as though anything really matters at that level. But the point is, I enjoy this sort of scale of game because there's quite a lot going on. It's quite simple to play. That US sort of operation exercise, you know, there wasn't much to it really. It wasn't really a real video. It was a video in the material sense, but it wasn't real video in any sort of gaming sense. So I was going to get one of those done so that I can have something to watch a bit later on. That's what I'm saying. So we're getting there. So I'm going to save some of these units for... This might be tight, but we've got armour against irregulars, so... Yeah. Okay, that's almost perfect, really. I did it like that because I'm going to bring these through to attack. So this, 6.25, and this. Is there enough? No. Okay, let's try this. Should be a 5 or 6 to 1. Ooh. We won't be able to move in there, but we might be able to eliminate it. DE, pushing back to there. So we've done quite well, really. But we focus most of our heavy forces up there. And the notion is that I'll be able to get these down here. But they're not very big, are they? Let's just see what we can do. What to do with these units? It's a big task force there. Put them both there. And leave this guy in reserve there for the time being, because once this battle is gone and we've moved, we can bring him forward to maybe assist there. We should win here. Let's give him an airstrike. See what he makes of that. 0.9. Bring up to 3.9. DE. Let me put an airstrike on him first. 1. That was worth it. Okay. So everyone else is... he's got some movement, but... I'm pushing too far forward. So that's that section done. Very easy. And down here. So again, I'm trying to break through this sort of area. These ones should be easy to take out. These ones will be a bit tougher in the first instance, mainly because we've got a zone of control to get through to get to that, or we come through the hills. We're going to get stopped in these hills. We could possibly go straight up this road, but there's still a lot in the hills dug in. It might be a bit easier, but because of this hill arrangement, that's going to be quite a tough one. But this, we should be able to get enough against them, and this guy's not in hills, and this guy is or isn't. No, so he's the only one in the hills, so it would be sort of tougher. So we should be able to easily move him out, and him. Possibly him, this one, and this one's not going to be that difficult, so we'll be able to get the manpower against it, but this one's going to be difficult. I predict. Let's see. So all our big tanks are down here. Well, not even that. Our artillery's down there. So we don't really have much against it. It's mechanised down here. It's not there, is it? We don't really have a lot against that. I almost benefit of bringing some of this stuff down here. Got 3 tanks there, look, they need to come across here. And this is where we need the road network, because if you look at that road network, it sort of goes conveniently down there, but these hexes are obviously occupied. So in order to get there, we need to come through all this with these tanks. Which means pushing him back and him, ideally. It's also complicated, but I think we can definitely benefit from taking this town. From here. Let's put some air power on that. artillery. Back to that one, I think. Okay, let's put one artillery here, one artillery here. Let's put an air unit on this. Well, yeah. Nope. No, I'm not going to do that. Okay. Oh, 3-1 exchange. One to two. That was bizarre. And yet 28.8. How is that? Is it like... Alright. He's in light urban, but he's entrenched. Oh, hang on. Light urban, but entrenched. So we come to a complete stagnant halt there. Because I wanted these two X's. Well, we're just going to have to bring that armour this way. One to one. I said they were going to be tough in urban areas, and I was right. So we pretty much spent everything trying to get the road open. And of course, so we needed this unit, these two units, and that, and this one. We failed on all of them. Not what I wanted to do. Okay. Let's see if we can blow him up. Let's put two of these, one Syrian and one Russian on this. So I have to do that again. It's not. It's not to be a 1-to-1. 3. Well, the text is getting worse and worse. I'm not going to do any more. This is an urban. You just complete the line with these guys here, like this. That's the line. Go for it here. Exchange. Seemed to be so easy before. Important. Right. Well, that's interesting. There's a total failure just about everywhere. Well, here's the rest of all of this. Okay. I feel like I wasn't focusing really. And we did well up here, and I got sort of, I think I got a bit overconfident. And here we failed on all of these attacks, which was not too bad, and then we got an AR there. That was terrible. So, what can they do? Well, there's a few things they really want to do. They definitely want to put some units in there. Like that. when I do that, clicking them down the road, etc., I always think, well, maybe if I had one, because he went 9, I could have just, instead of clicking them 9, I could have just said I can move from there to there. But obviously the AI in this is not able to do that. There's no secret to that, because it's the way it works, it's HTML. But I quite like it, although it's a pain. One of the things I remember about games is you'd have to count with your counter. That was the whole point. You'd pick the counter up with your hand, and then you would count down the road, generally aloud, so the other person would know what you were doing. Because obviously you could cheat. But then you've got to remember that I think the rules of the game were sort of, I can't remember how they were, to be quite honest. I'm not sure whether you could move partially, or but when you took your finger off the counter, that was it. You couldn't undo it. So you could pick the counter up and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 1, 2, 3, 5. And you could fuddle it around like that. And but the moment you took your finger off it, that was it. Now this is similar, but you have to do one hex at a time. And I think that sort of works because every time you actually make a move, the game changes. The balance of the counters change. And sometimes it's sort of, hang on, I'll leave it at that and maybe come back to it, which is what you can do in this game. But I quite like that process. So the thing is, we've got lots of reinforcements down here. It's not dug in. So they just held their ground like that. I really want to stick something in every one of these hexes. So I don't know what to do with him. Rockets in there. Right, so I've got some rockets. Now the thing is, going against these tanks is not always the best thing with rockets anymore, because they just sort of bounce off, they're at quarter value, so we're best off going for the soft skin targets. A lot of armour there. .5 damage. .7, no effect. 2.8. So these engineers have taken a lot. Maybe that wasn't a good move. I was going for that, but I wanted to really get next to that then. 2. Well, that's good. .8. It's not going to get easier. I'm going to leave all this stuff here to sort of assume that we're placing all of that off, because probably only got enough time for one more turn. So here, simply steamrolling here. So let's focus down here first, at the difficult area. Where are we having trouble? I'll take that out. They didn't move, so they recovered. They're from zeros. I want to move him so we can get this road. Get boat clear. It's so complex and fiddly. So most of their units have recovered. And even that guy, we've got an AR against him, so he didn't get any damage anyway, but these are all on 3s, so we want to recover them all. So the only threats are these rocket units, the anti-tank things, so maybe we can try and take some of those out. They're the ones that are causing a problem, because he got hit by that. Taking him out would be good. If we can get him, maybe with some airstrikes and him, moving some motorized units there. Even just the motorized units should be able to do it 6 to 1. DE, and we eliminated him. So that was perfect. Start thinking. I can't afford to be losing them like that. Look at that. Okay, so we've got this unit here, but he's not in. It's just been open. I should be able to take him out. Him. We've got to take him out. Right. Let's do this slightly differently. Oh, that's not different. Right. Artillery. Let's take that unit out. 0.3. Big 0.3. 0.35. Airstrikes. Well, we can use 2 and 2 against the there. Also, we never use everything against the target because it just doesn't make sense. $1.7, that's it. It's just not enough. Let's put 2 against this. Shot down. Well, that doesn't happen often. You just cannot break through this Hasham thing. $1.7. I don't want to do the other airstrikes because that would be cheating. So I'm just going to go for it. Oh, that was just lucky. That was just luck. But that's how it should be. Okay, we can put airstrikes on that. That's invalid. Ah, the thing is, no one ever watches my videos, so no one's ever going to see me playing this badly. Sometimes I actually wonder how much of a bad loser I am, because I get quite angry when I lose. I mean, not that it's showing now, but inside I sort of feel like sort of saying, "This is stupid game, rubbish," something like that. It's sort of, you know, this is why I sort of think the discipline is quite important across many areas in general life and in games. In that you need to sort of learn that it's a simulation and you play on both sides, but also understand your own mentality, because that's what it's about. It's not just a mechanical game. There's part of you in there, in the sense that, I'm getting desperate, so I'm doing desperate things and playing it desperately and hoping that the next move will win. I'm not doing it overtly and deliberately, but you would have thought that I would have started to think a little harder, and I haven't. I've just started using the same gusto, and I keep getting the AR. It's the second AR in that area. I've not made any ground hardly, and the only ground I've made is just one very lucky 1-2 DR result. And this is why I sort of think that War Bodies is a good game, because you really need to be careful about about sort of observing that sort of stuff, and you can't just click the save and then go back and reload it, because that's how I used to play lots of war games. Virtually every war game I ever played, especially things like Civilization, which I played a lot of. I would just get in the habit of every time before I did almost virtually anything that I might not win, I'd always save it. I think it's saved automatically at the beginning of every turn, but before I did anything, I'd save it. If it didn't work, I'd reload it. The justification for that, to some extent, was the AI cheats, and so in the light of that, you feel justified in cheating back. But this doesn't cheat. There's no AI on this, and we started off with such a sort of false sense of security by winning everything up here that I just sort of thought, well, it will just happen the same, and so I think I'm not going to play it any further because it's 53 minutes, and I think that here I'd need to hold because I simply don't have the forces, and I really need to start thinking about what I'm doing. Now that could possibly have gone better, but we've taken such a pounding down there, and I would be tempted to just start again. But I think to some extent you've got to sort of not start again, because in war you can't do it again. You only get one chance. And the thing is, it also makes you sort of realise, well, do real military leaders behave like that? And to some extent, I think they do. And I saw this sort of evidence to some extent in the Iran-Iraq war, where Iranian commanders were putting together plans that were sort of doomed to failure because they were being pressed by the leaders to come up with a plan. And I got a feeling that they were under they weren't working under similar sort of pressures, but I mean, for example, there was some of the battles, I can't remember the names, and they went on for like 4 days, and every day they did an attack, and every day the attack failed abysmally, just like there. And they did another one, it failed, then they did another one, and it failed, and it's like, is that the same mentality? What is that mentality, other than what you might call stupidity? And I don't want to say stupidity like in stupid idiots, because this is what you get when you're, I don't know, it's not so much extremists when you're fundamentalists, or you're zealots, or you're just hardcore religiously focused. And I think it's more along the lines of how they think. And that's my initial off-the-cuff observation based on what I'm talking about at the moment. I can't quite remember the Iran-Iraq situation that fully to really comment officially on sort of how that was, but I get a feeling it's all sort of very similar sort of thing. And I think, if you're doing war and things like this, and you're trying to analyse it and model it for potential conflicts, you've got to sort of be aware of identifying this sort of stupidity. And I think you've got a little bit of this in the Korean War. I've only really done the first part of the Korean War because I just haven't got any further than the first part. In the first part, obviously the United Nations, or mainly basically the US forces, lose. But there's certain situations where they try to hold and they reinforce, even though it's not going to work, and they knew it wasn't going to work, and it was a mistake, and they even admitted it was a mistake to try and hold certain places when they could have left. Had the opportunity to leave, but they didn't, and it's the same sort of thing. And you think, well, how can you identify when people are sort of being rash? Now, in the general current states of things, that doesn't happen. That's not an option, in the sense that there is no fast-paced war. Anything that happens can be probably planned almost at leisure if you've got superior forces. But obviously that's sort of not really happening in, say, other things and other theatres, in particular the Libyan theatre, where we're seeing for the first time an ebb and flow. I sort of was looking at it and I was thinking, why is the LNA just not making progress? I mean, they're within a half-hour drive of Tripoli. How come they haven't made that progress? And I got the thing that, they're suffering from a certain, not command paralysis, but from a certain sort of military lethargy, I think. and subsequent on the GNA advance, they're probably sort of thinking, my God, you know, we had the opportunity and we just lost it. And it's sort of like, well, that's a realization that must be hitting home hard. But the thing is, it happens, and how can you identify that? You know, how can you identify when things are going, say, you know, like this, and then say, well, we're going to stop? Because obviously it's not normal to stop. It's something, oh, we'll just carry on. But I mean, in theory, we should say, well, these are major defeats, major losses. We need to stop, because we know that the Sham units can't regularly counterattack. The only thing they can do is use their rockets against our soft skin targets and their anti-tank. They don't have any air power, so we can say, well, we're going to just hold back. We know they can't do major attacks. It's going to be a bit of a pain, but we've already taken out two anti-tank units. We've got this one over here, got one here. We can use our air power to maybe take out the rockets, and the air power to actually really sort of say, okay, we've had enough of losing here. We're just going to pound it with air until we can march in there. But that was why that's why I gave them such good bonuses in urban terrain, for exactly this purpose, because it is actually quite difficult to get these irregulars out. So I'm going to leave it at that, but that was an interesting game, primarily because I sort of did quite badly, and I think it's worth even sort of thinking, well, hang on, how did I do badly, and how did I behave and feel about that? And you know, I think that it's, you know, that's as much part of it as anything else. Understanding when you maybe haven't, you know, this is the game. You know, I'm just sort of trying to play it off the cuff, really. But when you do stupid things like that, it's clear that I'm not thinking, and I don't have to think if I don't want to. But you know, the whole premise is that I do. You know, I'm not churning videos out just for the sake of it, although to some extent that's what I am doing, but it's, you know, that has to be a secondary. So there's certainly something to be reflected upon there. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, and I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.